cheated doctor loses everything to husband's mistress, but destiny puts her face to face with the woman responsible for her ruin. And the unexpected happens. You can't miss this story. Subscribe now and come with us. Anna Smith arrived home. Exhausted, the shift at the hospital had been long, and all she wanted was a hot bath and a few hours of rest. She took off her shoes at the entrance, walking to the living room while massaging her neck. The house was too silent, strangely empty. It was then that she noticed the envelope on the table. Her name was written in Ethan Garcia's handwriting. A chill ran down her spine. She dropped her purse on the couch and tore the envelope open with trembling hands. Anna, I know there's no easy way to say this, but I can't live this lie anymore. I'm leaving home. I love someone else. Emily Johnson and I have been together for a while now, and we've decided to live this relationship for real. I hope one day you can forgive me. Her eyes raced to the end of the letter. Nothing but his name, no further explanation, no apologies. Just a cold, definitive goodbye. Air left her lungs. Her heart hammered in her chest as if it wanted to explode. She looked around, noticing for the first time the empty spaces, the shelf without his books, the absence of his clothes on the hanger. The scent of his perfume was already starting to fade away. No, it can't be. The voice came, weak, almost a whisper. She ran to the bedroom. The wardrobe was flung open, half empty. The drawers where his shirts had been were now just empty compartments. He had taken everything, and the worst. Without even telling her in person, she squeezed the phone in her hands and dialed his number. Voicemail. Tried again and again. Her heart raced faster and faster. Maybe this is a breakdown, an impulsive decision, she thought. He will pick up. He needs to pick up. But after the fifth attempt came the worst realization. Ethan had blocked her number. Anna Smith felt her legs weaken and fell to her knees on the soft carpet. Tears came uncontrollably, accompanied by sobs that tore at her throat. How could he? How could he just leave without giving her a chance to understand? Her gaze fixed on the ceiling as the emptiness in her soul grew. Everything felt like a nightmare. But it wasn't. And if there was someone who could give her answers, that person was his mother. 20 minutes later, Anna was at the door of her mother-in-law's house. Victoria Brown opened the door with a concerned expression. As soon as she saw her daughter-in-law's red face, she knew something was wrong. Anna, what happened? The doctor tried to respond, but the words seemed stuck in her throat. She took a deep breath, searching for a shred of strength. Ethan, he left. He said he loves someone else. Her eyes filled with tears again. Did you know about this? The woman's eyes widened in surprise. What do you mean, he left? The shock in her voice was genuine. I didn't know anything, my God. Desperation grew even more inside Anna. He blocked me. He doesn't answer my calls. I got home and only found a damn letter. Victoria Brown brought her hand to her mouth, shaking her head in denial. This can't be right. Ethan never did something like this. But he did, Anna exclaimed, her voice trembling with pain and indignation. And you know who the other person is? Emily. The name slipped from her lips like poison. Her mother-in-law blinked, confused. Emily? But that girl? Wasn't she a friend of yours? Anna felt her stomach turn. Yes, Emily was a colleague, someone who had been to her home, shared lunches and casual conversations, someone she trusted. The betrayal was even crueler than she had imagined. Victoria Brown pulled Anna inside and hugged her. My daughter, I don't know what to say. I'm in shock too. Anna allowed herself a few seconds in the embrace, but deep down, she knew that no words or gestures could relieve the devastating pain she felt. She left that house without answers. But now, it wasn't just sadness that burned inside her. It was something deeper. It was anger. And this anger would grow even more when, the next day, she discovered the humiliation that Ethan and Emily were making a point of making public. The alarm clock rang at 5 in the morning, but Anna Smith was already awake. All night long, she lay on her side, her eyes fixed on the dark ceiling, feeling an emptiness that was impossible to fill. Each tick of the clock echoed like a cruel reminder. Ethan Garcia was gone. He chose another woman. She blinked slowly, feeling her eyelids heavy. Even without sleep, the fatigue was not physical, it was emotional, as if her soul were disintegrating bit by bit. The bed felt bigger. The side where Ethan slept was untouched, his pillow still holding a slight impression. It was a trace of the man who, until yesterday, had been part of her life. The pain tightened her chest even more. Slowly, she sat on the edge of the bed, running her hands over her face. She felt numb, as if all of this were just a bad dream from which she would wake at any moment. But reality continued to be there, cruel, irrevocable. On the nightstand, the crumpled envelope lay discarded next to the lamp. Her name, written in Ethan's handwriting, still stared back at her, as if mocking her suffering. Anna picked up the letter with trembling hands and reread each word, even though she already knew the content by heart. I'm leaving home. I love another person. I hope you can forgive me one day. She tore the sheet in half in a fit of rage, but in the next second she felt even more pathetic. The paper was destroyed, but the pain remained. She got up and walked to the bathroom, turning on the faucet. Cold water flowed over her fingers before she washed her face. Her reflection in the mirror startled her. Her face was swollen, her eyes red and sunken, her lips pale. She looked like another person, not the dedicated, strong, and always impeccable doctor that everyone knew, but a woman abandoned. A bitter taste rose in her throat. She didn't want to be this woman. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. She needed to move on with her life. She needed to work. 20 minutes later, Anna left home, dressed in formal clothes under her white coat. The hospital had always been her refuge, the only place where she felt that she had control over something. But that day, something was different. She noticed the glances as soon as she entered the locker room, whispers among the nurses, discreet exchanges of looks among the resident doctors. They're talking about me. The thought hit her like a punch to the stomach. She tried to ignore it. She continued walking to her locker, pretending she didn't notice how some conversations ceased the moment she walked by. Until Ashley Adams, one of the doctors on her team, appeared in front of her. Anna, did you see this? Her colleague's expression was one of pity, and Anna immediately knew she didn't want to see whatever it was. But before she could refuse, Ashley turned her phone towards her, and Anna saw the photo. Her heart stopped. There on the phone screen were Ethan Garcia and Emily Johnson. The two were lying on the sand of a paradise-like beach, kissing. He held her face tenderly, while Emily smiled against his lips like a couple from a romantic movie, as if nothing else in the world mattered. Anna felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. What? What is this? Her voice came out weak, like a whisper. Ashley swallowed hard. He posted this photo 3 hours ago, Anna. The doctor felt her throat tighten, but the final blow was still to come. The caption on the photo said, "Finally with the love of my life, the woman who has always been my destiny." Anna couldn't breathe. The room around her spun, her vision blurred. It was as if her heart had been ripped out by hand. Ethan had never made public declarations during their marriage. He never posted anything about them. But now he made a point of showing the whole world that he and Emily were together, and more than that, he wanted Anna to see. He wanted her to suffer. Anna stumbled back and Ashley held her arm. Anna calmed down, but she couldn't calm down. Her chest rose and fell at an accelerated rate. Her heart hammered so hard it felt like it was going to explode. He never loved me. Never. The betrayal was not a moment of weakness. It was not a mistake. It was a choice. And now he was rubbing that choice in her face. Anna needed to get out of there. She pulled away from Ashley's touch and rushed out of the locker room. She could barely see where she was going, passing through crowded hallways, past patients, past colleagues calling her name, until she found the bathroom on the floor. She rushed in and locked herself in one of the stalls. There, alone, Anna slid down against the door, hugging her legs and feeling her whole body tremble. The tears came hard, and for the first time since she found Ethan's letter, she screamed, a muffled scream stifled by her palm, a scream of anger, of hate. She cried out everything she had tried to hold back, but amidst that desperate sobbing, a thought began to grow. Ethan and Emily were happy, enjoying a vacation. Meanwhile, she was there, crumbling alone in a hospital bathroom. This couldn't stay like this. It couldn't. Their story wasn't over yet. And when Anna found the courage to face Emily face to face, the game would change. The clock showed 7:30 in the morning when Anna Smith left the bathroom. Her face was still warm, her eyes red, and her breath uneven. But she couldn't afford to falter there. She walked through the hospital corridors with her head held high, ignoring the curious glances and whispers around her. The public humiliation of Ethan Garcia and Emily Johnson was already enough. She wouldn't let anyone see how much it was destroying her. She arrived at the on-call room and found Ashley Adams sitting in front of the computer reviewing some tests. The friend looked up upon seeing her and frowned. "Anna, are you okay?" The doctor ignored the question. She pulled the chair next to her and sat down, forcing herself to keep her voice firm. "Who else saw that photo?" Ashley hesitated before answering. "Everyone." Anna felt a bitter taste in her mouth. "Everyone," she repeated, her voice slightly faltering. Ashley sighed, choosing her words carefully. "You know how things work here. It didn't take long for the photo to circulate in the messaging groups. And well, you know how it goes, right?" Anna closed her eyes for a moment, feeling her blood boil. "So now, besides being betrayed, I'm the joke of the hospital." "It's not like that." But Anna let out a bitter laugh. "It is exactly like that." She got up, grabbing an extra lab coat from the closet. "What are you going to do?" Ashley asked. Anna put on the lab coat with a swift motion, tying her hair up in a tight bun. "Work, as always." "Anna, you need some time." "What I need is to stay on my feet." Ashley didn't insist. Anna left the room determined. She wouldn't let anyone see her as a fragile woman. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. The shift was exhausting. Anna attended emergencies, conducted evaluations, reviewed tests, and participated in 2 delicate surgeries. But no matter how hard she tried to focus, the image of Ethan and Emily continued to burn in her mind. Throughout the day, she felt the stares from her colleagues. Some tried to hide it, while others whispered shamelessly. At one point, she caught 2 nurses looking at their phones and laughing. "Any problem?" she asked, crossing her arms. The 2 jumped, but tried to play it cool. "No, Dr. Anna." She narrowed her eyes, aware that they were laughing at her, but at that moment she didn't react. Not yet. When her shift ended, Anna grabbed her car keys and left the hospital. She didn't want to go home. She didn't want to face the silence of an empty home. And before she knew it, she was driving toward the only place where she could find answers. The store where Emily worked. The parking lot was almost full. Anna parked her car in the farthest corner, took a deep breath and got out, feeling her heart pounding in her chest. Part of her said it was madness to be there, but the other part, the part shattered by betrayal, wanted to see Emily face to face. Wanted her to know what she had done. Anna entered the store and walked through the aisles. ignoring the attendants who asked if they could help. She didn't need anything, except for a settling of scores. And then she saw her. Emily was at the counter, laughing at something a colleague said. She seemed relaxed, happy, as if nothing had happened. Anna felt her fingers clench into fists. She couldn't believe it, while she spent sleepless nights drowning in tears. Emily was carrying on with life as if nothing had happened. Hatred grew inside Anna like a wildfire. She wanted to confront her, wanted to see her tremble. But before she took another step, a customer approached the counter, and Emily turned her attention to him. Anna stood there frozen, watching, and then she noticed something. Emily was wearing a necklace, the same necklace that Ethan had given to Anna on their first wedding anniversary, the same one he swore was unique. The shock was instantaneous. Anna felt her breath fail. Of all the humiliations, this was the worst, and in that moment she understood. Ethan never loved her. Never. He must have lied the whole time. And Emily was not just any mistress. She wanted to take her place. Anna stepped back, feeling her whole body tremble. If she didn't leave then and there, she would do something she might regret. She took a deep breath and turned, walking quickly out of the store. But as she crossed the glass door, she made a promise to herself. It wouldn't end like this. She would still have the chance to return every piece of pain she was feeling. And fate, sooner or later, would put the two of them face to face again. The journey back home was a blur. Anna Smith drove on autopilot, her fingers gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles were white. Her heart was still pounding. In her chest and her mind repeated like a broken record the image of Emily Johnson at the store counter, wearing the same necklace that Ethan Garcia had given her. It was a provocation, a humiliation. How long had he been deceiving her? How many times had Emily been in her house, talking, smiling, feigning friendship, knowing she was sleeping with Ethan? The questions swirled in her mind like a violent storm, but no answers would come, and maybe she didn't even want to know. When she arrived at the building's parking lot, she sat for a few minutes inside the car, her hands still glued to the wheel. Outside, night had already fallen. The yellowish lights from the lampposts illuminated the silent streets. She took a deep breath. I need to go in. I need to take a shower. I need to forget this. But when she finally got out of the car and entered the apartment, it felt as if an invisible punch struck her chest. The emptiness of the house was suffocating. Everything was in the same place where she had left it. But at the same time, nothing seemed familiar. There was an empty space on the shelf where Ethan's books used to be. The sofa felt bigger. His scent, which had once permeated the air, was now just a faint trace, about to disappear completely. Anna Smith closed the door slowly and dropped her bag on the sofa. She walked to the kitchen and opened the fridge, not even knowing what she was looking for. The cold glow of the interior light illuminated the almost empty shelves. It was ironic. She wasn't hungry. She didn't feel like eating. She didn't feel like anything. She closed the fridge and leaned against the sink, running her hands over her face. She couldn't go on like this. She couldn't allow this pain to consume her. But how to get over something that had completely destroyed her? Her phone vibrated. On the table, she picked up the device without much enthusiasm, but upon seeing the name on the screen, a sigh escaped her lips. It was Victoria Brown, her ex-mother-in-law. Anna hesitated for a second before answering. "Hello. My daughter." The woman's voice sounded worried on the other end of the line. "How are you?" Anna closed her eyes, feeling a tightness in her chest. "Surviving, I guess." "Oh, my dear." Victoria sighed. "I still can't believe all of this. Ethan never told me anything. If I had known, I swear I would have warned you." Anna swallowed hard. "And if she Had known before, would it have made a difference? He blocked me from everything. I can't even ask. I can't understand. I tried to talk to him, the ex-mother-in-law continued, but he didn't want to listen to me. He said it was better this way. Better this way, as if you were nothing, as if those years of marriage were disposable. The woman's voice was filled with indignation. Anna felt a knot in her throat. I saw a picture of the two of them today. The silence on the other end was long. I saw it too, Anna. Victoria's voice was heavy with pain. It was a stab to the chest. Anna pressed the phone against her ear. Did you know he gave the same necklace to Emily? Victoria let out a trembling sigh. I can't believe this. Anna forced a humorless laugh. Well, you can believe it. Another long silence settled until the woman's voice emerged, lower, hesitant. Anna, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you still love Ethan? The question caught Anna by surprise. She opened her mouth to answer immediately, but what was the truth? The pain she felt was not just over the broken marriage. It was due to the betrayal, the humiliation, the cruel way he had abandoned her. She loved who Ethan had been, but she did not love who he had become. I don't know anymore, Victoria, she replied honestly. The woman sighed. Just don't let this pain destroy you, my dear. You still have a whole life ahead. Anna closed her eyes, trying to hold back the tears. Thank you. If you need anything, I'm here, all right? All right. They said their goodbyes, and Anna stood there in the middle of the kitchen, staring at her phone for long seconds. She couldn't let herself sink. But at the same time, she couldn't just move on as if nothing had happened. Ethan and Emily had to pay for this. She just didn't know how yet. But one thing was certain, fate never leaves loose ends. And this story was still far from over. The following day dawned cold and cloudy, accurately reflecting what Anna felt inside, a storm about to burst. She woke up after a restless sleep filled with disconnected images. She dreamed of Ethan, of Emily, of the store, of the necklace. She woke up from time to time, sweating, her heart racing, and when dawn finally broke, she felt exhausted, as if she'd been fighting something invisible all night long, but she couldn't afford to stay in bed. She got up, took a shower, and put on her lab coat. The hospital was waiting for her. If she couldn't control her personal life, at least her profession was still intact. Or so she hoped. Upon arriving at the hospital, she noticed the strange commotion. Nurses were whispering in the hallways. Doctors glanced at her from the corner of their eyes. Anna felt her stomach churn. Not again! She went straight to the doctor's lounge and found Ashley sitting on the sofa, holding her phone with a tense expression. As soon as she saw Anna, her friend quickly stood up. Did you see? Anna's heart skipped a beat. What? Ashley hesitated, then sighed and extended her phone. Anna took the device and felt her blood run cold. It was a video. The title said it all. Betrayed doctor replaced by lover and throws a tantrum in a mall store. Her eyes raced across the screen and a shock cut through her chest. It was a video from the night before. She was there in the store hallway looking at Emily behind the counter. The post caption distorted the situation, as if Anna had made a scene, as if she had gone after Emily to provoke. The video cut off at the moment Anna clenched her fists and hurried out of the store. But the editing zoomed in on her distressed face, exploiting her pain like a spectacle. There were thousands of comments. Some showed support, but the majority, what a bitter woman. She hasn't gotten over the betrayal, how pathetic. If the guy left, it's because the lover is better, simple as that. Go to work, doctor. Stop embarrassing yourself. Anna felt a knot form in her throat. She hadn't done anything. She hadn't even talked to Emily. And now it was a viral joke. The humiliation burned inside her like fire. Ashley took the phone back, her expression somber. This was posted in the early hours. It spread like wildfire. Anna closed her eyes, trying to control her anger. Who did this? They say it was a customer from the store, but you know how it works. Someone saw, recorded, posted it online, and now you're the talk of the moment. Anna's breathing grew heavy. This can't be happening. Do you want me to report the video? Report it. Anna's voice came out cold. But it won't matter. It's already gone viral. Ashley sighed. What are you going to do? Anna paused for a moment in silence. What could she do? If she rebelled, she'd only fuel the gossipers even more. If she stayed silent, she'd let them treat her like a rejected and pathetic woman. She couldn't allow that. I'm going to work, she said, adjusting her lab coat. Ashley nodded, but her expression said she knew Anna was holding hell inside her. Throughout the day, the glances continued. Colleagues whispered. Patients recognized her. Even the security guards looked at her with uncomfortable expressions, and then came the final blow. While reviewing exams in the medical room, she overheard a conversation in the hallway. And I heard she went after her husband's lover. Yeah, I saw the video. Pretty ridiculous, right? The worst part is now no one is going to take this woman seriously. If even her husband left. The voice faded when they realized she was there, but it was too late. Anna stood up slowly, left the room, and looked directly at the two nurses who were talking. The silence was deafening. Do you want to tell me something directly? Her voice came out firm, cutting. The women lowered their heads, mumbling apologies, but Anna saw the disguised smiles. Hate, pure hate burned within her, and at that moment she realized something. If she stayed silent, they would keep laughing. If she let them, they would turn her into a walking joke. No, this wasn't going to end like this. And if Emily thought she had won, she had something else to discover. That night, Anna didn't go home. She drove aimlessly for hours until she stopped in front of an old building. The worn-out sign on the facade read, Miguel's Bar. It was a small place, tucked away, far from the spotlight and social media. The perfect place to drown her own pain. She walked in and sat at the bar. The bartender, an older gentleman with grey hair, approached. What would you like? Anna thought. She had never been one to drink. But that night, she needed to forget. What's your strongest drink? The man raised an eyebrow. Are you driving? I'll call a cab later. He looked at her for a moment, then nodded and prepared a glass. When he placed the drink in front of her, Anna picked it up and downed it in one go. The drink burned, going down, and she coughed. The bartender laughed. First time, Anna blinked, her eyes watery from the alcohol. First time doing a lot of things. The man simply smiled and went back behind the bar. She sat there, alone, feeling the drink warm her stomach, feeling the anger transform into a numbing pain, until a male voice sounded beside her. You know, usually people drink to celebrate, but you look like someone trying to forget. Anna turned slowly. Next to her, a man with dark hair and intense eyes was watching her. There was something about him, a silent magnetism. He raised his own glass in a discreet toast. Want some company? Anna looked at him for a moment, and then she realized that for the first time since everything fell apart, she wanted to say yes. Anna Smith was silent for a moment, analyzing the man in front of her. He was attractive, very attractive. His dark, well-groomed hair, the thin beard, and the gaze, filled with mystery, gave him an intense, almost dangerous air. But it wasn't just his appearance that caught her attention. It was his presence. He seemed comfortable with himself, confident, without being arrogant, as if he were used to situations like this, and as if he understood exactly what Anna was feeling. She narrowed her eyes, trying to decipher him. "What if I say that I prefer to drink alone?" The man twirled his glass on the table and smiled to the side. "Then I will respect your choice." He took a sip of his drink without diverting his eyes from hers. There was something in the way he looked at her, something that sent a shiver down her spine. That man was different, and for some reason that intrigued her. Anna held her own glass, playing with the ice that still remained at the bottom. "Who are you?" He raised an eyebrow. "I thought the norm was to ask for your name first." She scoffed a dry laugh. "Who said this is a normal conversation?" He laughed too. "Fair enough." Then he extended his hand to her. "Caleb." Anna looked at his hand for a moment before shaking it. "Anna Smith." "Nice to meet you, Anna." "Will it really be a pleasure?" She raised an eyebrow. "You don't even know who I am." Caleb tilted his head slightly. "The truth is, I do know." Anna's heart raced. "How so?" He let out a low sigh, fiddling with his own glass before meeting her gaze again. "You are Anna Smith, a doctor. You were cheated on by your husband and became a target of gossip on the internet." The shock hit her like a slap. She stiffened, feeling the blood rush to her face. "So you saw the video too?" Caleb nodded. "Yes. And you came here to mock me in person?" "No." His voice sounded calm, steady. "I came here to drink. But when I saw you sitting there, I realized that maybe I wasn't the only one trying to forget something." She kept her eyes fixed on him, analyzing every nuance of his face. He didn't look like he was lying. And for the first time, someone was talking about public humiliation without mocking her, without judging her. That disarmed her. Anna let out a long sigh and downed the rest of her drink. The warm sensation going down her throat brought a wave of dizziness, and she leaned against the counter. "So tell me, Caleb, what are you trying to forget?" He was silent for a moment, as if weighing whether he should tell her or not. Then he finally replied, "Someone who destroyed me." Anna's heart raced at that unexpected confession. She stared at Caleb for a few more seconds, and for the first time since everything fell apart, she felt a genuine connection with someone, because somehow he understood. He knew what it was like to be shattered. Anna's gaze drifted to his lips. For a moment, she couldn't tell if it was the drink or the desire for revenge, but a thought crossed her mind. What would Ethan do if he knew that while he flaunted himself with Emily, she was in the arms of another man? But then Caleb broke the silence. "Let's get out of here." Anna blinked, confused. "What?" "It doesn't have to be what you're thinking." He smiled to the side. "I just think you need some air." She hesitated, but then she looked around at the bar, filled with people talking, laughing, enjoying the night. While she was sinking into self-pity, without thinking much, she grabbed her purse and stood up. "All right, let's go." Caleb also stood up, tossing a few notes on the counter before guiding her out of the bar. The cold night wind was like a slap in Anna's face. She hugged her body as she walked beside Caleb. Neither of them spoke for a few minutes, simply walking through the quiet streets. "So," he started, "what's your plan?" Anna frowned. "My plan?" "Yes. Are you really going to let your ex and his mistress laugh in your face?" She stopped abruptly. Caleb also stopped, looking at her seriously. Anna felt her heart race. "Do you think I should do something? I think you should stand up for yourself." His words were like gasoline thrown on the fire that was burning inside her. Stand up for herself, not be the victim. She took a deep breath, looking at the dark sky. Caleb was right. She couldn't stay there, suffering in silence. But how? How to get back at them without stooping to their level? A thought crossed her mind. Something bold, something Ethan would never expect. She turned to Caleb, a new sparkle in her eyes. "Do you want to help me?" He smiled at the corner of his mouth. "What do you have in mind?" Anna took a deep breath, her heart pounding in her chest. Maybe it was madness, but suddenly she didn't feel so defenseless anymore. And when Ethan and Emily least expected it, she would rewrite this story. Anna Smith felt a chill down her spine as she realized the words that had left her mouth. Was she really asking a stranger for help to deal with her revenge? Caleb Wilson stood there, arms crossed, with that intriguing half-smile. He seemed more interested than surprised. "So," he crossed his arms, "you want to turn the tables?" Anna took a deep breath, trying to organize her thoughts. The alcohol still clouded her mind, but that wasn't what made her act impulsively. It was the pain. She could no longer be the victim. "I want them to feel what I felt," she said, her voice firm. Caleb narrowed his eyes, evaluating her. "And how exactly do you plan to do that?" Anna ran her tongue over her lips, thinking. She still didn't have a plan. She only knew that she couldn't let Ethan and Emily get away with it. They destroyed her. They laughed at her. They publicly humiliated her. She took a deep breath, trying to think rationally. "I need to be smarter than they are." Caleb tilted, his head interested. "I'm listening. If I react the way everyone expects, I'll look bitter, vengeful." She crossed her arms. "But if I show that I'm okay, that I've moved on without looking back, then the whole narrative changes." He smiled to the side. "You want to turn their humiliation into your own redemption?" "Exactly." Caleb chuckled softly. "I like how you think." Anna looked at him. There was something about Caleb, something that made her trust him in a strange way. Maybe it was the direct gaze, the calm way he spoke. Or maybe it was simply the fact that, for the first time since everything fell apart, someone was on her side. He shoved his hands in his pockets and tilted his head. "All right. How can I help?" Anna hesitated. It was now or never. "I want you to be my escort at an event." Caleb raised his eyebrows. "An event?" "Yes. A medical event. An award ceremony for health professionals." He was silent for a moment, seemingly piecing things together. "And Ethan will be there?" Anna nodded. "With Emily." Caleb let out a low laugh. "I see. You want him to think you've moved on." "Exactly. I want him to see me and realize that he didn't destroy me." Caleb was silent for a moment, then smiled to the side. "Sounds fun. Does that mean you accept?" He held her gaze for a few seconds. "Of course, but with one condition." Anna frowned. "What condition?" Caleb smiled. "If we're going to pretend to be a couple, then you have to really get into the game." Anna's heart raced. "What does that mean?" He leaned forward slightly. "It means that if Ethan asks, I'm the perfect man. A successful, charming guy. Someone who made you completely forget that you were ever married to him." Anna swallowed hard. That was exactly what she wanted. She didn't just want to show that she was fine. She wanted Ethan to see her and know he lost her. "Deal," she said finally. Caleb smiled, satisfied. "Great, then let's do this right." In the following days, Anna stayed focused. She no longer watched the store video. She didn't read any hate comments. What mattered now was her comeback, and for that, she needed to change everything. On the morning of the event, Anna opened her wardrobe and realized she had nothing. That really impressed. If she was going to show up with Caleb and face Ethan and Emily with her head held high, then she needed to look flawless. She went to a sophisticated boutique and chose a dress that hugged her body just right. The burgundy fabric shimmered under the light, the neckline was elegant, and the thigh-high slit added a touch of boldness. When she looked at her reflection in the fitting room mirror, she noticed something curious. She no longer felt like the abandoned woman. She felt in control. Her hair was styled in an elegant bun, leaving her neck exposed. The makeup enhanced her eyes, highlighting her strength. Now, Yes, she was ready. At 7 in the evening, Caleb showed up to pick her up. Anna opened the door and felt her breath falter for a second. He wore a flawless black suit, the tie perfectly adjusted, the woody fragrance filling the air. "Wow," he said, looking her up and down. Anna smiled, pleased with his reaction. "You don't look bad yourself." He offered his arm. "Shall we?" She linked her arm through his. "Let's put on a show." The event was packed. Doctors, businessmen, and important figures in the field were gathered in the sophisticated hall with instrumental music playing in the background and waiters circulating with glasses of champagne. And then Anna saw him. Ethan was a few meters away next to Emily. The ex-husband wore a dark suit and was talking to some people. Emily wore a tight red dress, laughing at something someone said. Anna felt her blood boil, but then she took a deep breath and maintained her composure. This time she wasn't going to break. Caleb seemed to notice as he leaned in and murmured in her ear, "He's already seen you." Anna didn't look immediately. She would make Ethan wait. She took a glass of champagne from a waiter's tray and took a slow sip. Then, finally, she turned and met Ethan's eyes. For a moment, he froze. His gaze traveled over her body, scrutinizing her intently. Emily, noticing, squeezed his arm and followed his gaze. And that's when Anna saw the shock in her rival's eyes. Emily hadn't expected to see her like this, hadn't expected her to look so stunning. Anna felt a smile blossom on her lips. Caleb, noticing everything, slid one hand around her waist, an intimate and natural touch. Anna reacted the same way, as if it was something ordinary. And then finally, they walked towards Ethan and Emily. The moment of confrontation had arrived. Dean! The elegant hall was filled with hushed conversations and soft instrumental music, but for Anna Smith, the whole world seemed to silence the moment she approached Ethan Garcia and Emily Johnson. Her heart raced, but not out of nervousness. It was excitement, because this time she wasn't the abandoned woman. She was the woman coming back stronger. Caleb Wilson kept his hand firmly on her waist, guiding her with the same carefree confidence he had since the moment they met. Anna noticed Ethan's sharp gaze following every detail, and when she met her ex-husband's eyes, she knew she had succeeded. Ethan did not hide his discomfort. His jaw was slightly tense, and his expression, which had previously exuded superiority as he circulated the event with Emily, now showed an emotion that was different. Surprise, uncertainty, perhaps even regret. Anna savored that moment. She and Caleb stopped in front of the couple, and a heavy silence lingered among the four. Emily, who seconds earlier had a victorious smile while conversing with the guests, now had her lips taut. Her gaze quickly passed over Anna, then fixed on Caleb. "Anna." Ethan finally broke the silence. His voice sounded deeper than usual. "You look beautiful." Anna maintained a polite smile. "Thank you." He cleared his throat, clearly. "Uncomfortable. I didn't know you would come." "Oh, I would never miss such an important event," she replied casually. "After all, I work hard to be recognized." The jab was subtle, but precise. Ethan gulped. Emily averted her gaze. Caleb then cleared his throat and extended his hand to Ethan, bearing a calm smile. "Caleb Wilson, pleasure to meet you." Ethan looked at the outstretched hand for a second longer than necessary before shaking it. "Ethan Garcia." Caleb then turned to Emily and made the same gesture. "And you must be—" Emily hesitated for a moment but forced a smile and shook his hand. "Emily Johnson." Caleb nodded as if remembering that name carefully. "I've heard a lot about you." Emily blinked quickly, surprised. Ethan frowned. "Heard?" "Oh yes." Caleb smiled, casting a quick glance at Anna. "My girlfriend told me some very interesting stories." The air grew heavy. Ethan stiffened his shoulders. Emily lost some color in her face. It was obvious they did not expect that. Anna felt the blood pulse with satisfaction. Emily, trying to regain her composure, forced a smile. "I'm glad. You've moved on, Anna. I truly hope you're happy." Anna raised an eyebrow. "You hope?" Emily pressed her lips together but maintained a false friendly air. "Of course. After all, what matters is that each one has found their path." Anna let out a low, humorless laugh. "What a funny thing, Emily. Because I don't remember you caring about my happiness while you were sleeping with my husband. Behind my back, the attack was direct. For the first time, Emily lost her composure. Anna, No need to explain." Anna raised her champagne flute. "I already know that story backward and forward." The silence between them was like an invisible duel. Ethan looked from side to side, as if he wanted to intervene but didn't know how. And then Caleb slid his hand along Anna's waist and placed a gentle kiss on her temple. "Love, would you like another glass of champagne?" he asked in the most casual tone in the world. Anna turned her face to him and smiled. "I'd love to." Caleb winked discreetly at her before moving toward the bar. When Anna returned her attention to Ethan and Emily, she saw Ethan's closed-off expression. He hated to see that. He hated to see another man touching her that way now, and that was exactly what she wanted. Anna sighed and threw one last look at Emily. "Well, it was a pleasure to see you. But now, if you'll excuse me, I have a night to enjoy." And without giving any time for further response, she turned and walked towards Caleb. For the first time in a long time, she left a conversation with Ethan feeling victorious. But as she walked away, she felt his gaze burning into her back. And at that moment, she knew this story was not over yet. Anna Smith felt the adrenaline rush through her body as she walked away from Ethan Garcia and Emily Johnson. Every step she took was a victory. Every shocked glance she received was a reminder that she was no longer the betrayed and humiliated woman. She held her chin up and approached Caleb Wilson, who was already holding 2 glasses of champagne at the bar. "That was amazing." He smiled as he handed one of the glasses to her. Anna Smith took the drink, her eyes sparkling. "I know." She took a sip, savoring the feeling of relief. "Did you see their faces?" Caleb Wilson let out a low laugh. "I did." He raised his glass in a toast. "To your triumphant return." Anna Smith clinked her glass against his, smiling. But as the champagne slid down her throat, something inside her still burned. Ethan Garcia and Emily Johnson were together. They had destroyed her life and walked away unscathed. That still wasn't enough. Caleb Wilson noticed the change in her expression. "Are you thinking about your next move?" Anna Smith set her glass on the counter and crossed her arms. "I wanted this to be the last time they affected me, but it's not that simple, is it?" Caleb Wilson leaned against the counter beside her. "Nothing that involves feelings is simple." Anna Smith looked away, taking a deep breath. "What do I do now?" Caleb Wilson fell silent for a moment, as if he was carefully choosing his words. "Do you really want revenge? Or do you want to move on?" Anna Smith didn't answer immediately. She wanted both. But before she could say anything, she felt a shiver run down her spine. Someone was watching her. She turned slowly and met Ethan Garcia's eyes fixed on her. He was alone now. Emily Johnson had disappeared into the crowd. They stared at each other for a few seconds, and then Ethan Garcia began to walk toward her. Anna Smith's heart raced in her chest. Caleb Wilson noticed and leaned slightly toward her. "He's coming." Anna Smith tightened her fingers around her glass. "I know. Do you want me to stay?" She hesitated. Part of her did, but another part wanted to face Ethan Garcia alone. She wanted to hear from his mouth what was bothering him, because if he was coming after her now, it was because something was bothering him. She let out a sigh. "Go get more champagne." Meet me in 5 minutes. Caleb Wilson watched her for a moment, then nodded and walked away, leaving her alone as Ethan Garcia finally reached her. The ex-husband stopped a few inches away, his expression tense. "So this is it now?" Anna Smith raised an eyebrow. "This what?" "You and him," she smiled slightly. "Why does that bother you, Ethan?" He clenched his jaw. "It doesn't bother me." "Then why did you come here?" Ethan Garcia fell silent for a moment, as if he was trying to find an answer that didn't sound desperate. Anna Smith took the moment to study him. He looked different. There were light, dark circles under his eyes, as if he hadn't slept well in a while. His face, once always confident, now showed tension. Were he and Emily Johnson not as well as they appeared? Ethan cleared his throat. "I just wanted to know how you are." Anna Smith let out a low laugh. "How curious, because you didn't care to know when you left me." He ran his hand through his hair, clearly unsettled. "Anna." She raised her hand, interrupting him. "Look, Ethan, if you came here expecting to see me crying, I'm sorry. I moved on." Ethan Garcia watched her for long seconds. "With him?" Anna Smith kept the smile on her face. "What makes you think this is any of your business?" He pressed his lips together, speechless. And then, finally, she saw it. He was regretful. He thought he would have control of the situation forever, that he could trade her, humiliate her, and go on with life without looking back. But now, he saw he was wrong. Ethan Garcia took a deep breath and lowered his head. "I'm very sorry." Anna Smith froze. For a moment she thought she had heard wrong. "What?" He raised his eyes, and for the first time she saw sincerity there. "I'm very sorry for everything." Her chest tightened, because for weeks she had waited to hear that. But now that it was finally happening, she didn't feel the relief she thought she would. Ethan ran his hand across his face and sighed. "There are things you don't know. And what does that change?" Anna Smith crossed her arms. "Does it change the fact that you cheated on me, that you humiliated me?" He closed his eyes for a moment, then looked at her again. "I'm sick, Anna." Her stomach churned. "What?" He swallowed hard. "I have a genetic disease, a serious, degenerative problem. I found out a few months ago." The ground beneath Anna Smith seemed to vanish. She blinked, trying to understand. "Genetic disease?" "Yes. And there is no cure." She felt her heart race. You knew this when you left me?" Ethan looked away. "Yes." Anna Smith opened her mouth, but nothing came out. That explained everything. That's why he transferred the assets to Emily Johnson. That's why he left her life without looking back. Ethan raised his eyes again, his expression heavy with deep sadness. "I didn't want you to be tied to this, Anna. I didn't want your life to revolve around my illness." She felt her head spin. Everything she knew, everything she felt, was now turned upside down. She hated Ethan. She wanted to see him suffer. But now, he was already suffering. And the question she couldn't ignore was, what would she do with this information? The world around Anna Smith seemed to spin in slow motion. The noise of conversations at the event, the instrumental music playing in the background, the glasses clinking in toasts. Nothing made sense anymore. Ethan Garcia's revelation hit her like a punch to the stomach. She blinked several times, trying to absorb the words he had just said. Sick, a genetic degenerative disease. Ethan was dying. She moistened her lips, feeling her mouth dry. How do you mean, Ethan?" He sighed, his eyes downcast, as if he finally carried the weight of the truth. "I was diagnosed a few months ago. It's a rare hereditary disease. It attacks the neuromuscular system. Gradually, I will lose movement until..." He hesitated, averting his gaze. Anna felt a shiver run down her spine. She knew that type of disease. She knew how it ended. Is there no treatment? Ethan pressed his lips together. The available treatments only delay the symptoms, but they do not prevent the inevitable. Anna was speechless. This was the man she had spent the last few weeks hating, the man who destroyed her life, who replaced her with another without a shred of remorse. And now he was there, vulnerable, carrying a burden she never imagined. Did she want to feel pity? No. Did she want to feel anger? Not that either. In fact, she didn't know what to feel. No matter how much it still hurt, no matter how much she wanted to scream that he didn't deserve her compassion, she was a doctor. And above all, she was human. The silence between them grew heavy. Ethan, perhaps interpreting her expression as coldness, sighed and scratched the back of his neck. I didn't tell you this because you didn't want me to stay, right? She interrupted, crossing her arms. He hesitated, then nodded. Yes. She let out a dry, humorless laugh. And instead of talking to me, of letting me decide, you simply betrayed me. You ruined everything. Ethan clenched his jaw. I thought it would be easier this way. Anna felt the anger bubbling up again. Easier for whom, Ethan? He didn't respond. She laughed, incredulous. You destroyed me to make your exit from my life easier. You made me go through public humiliation, made me doubt everything we lived. All of this for what? So I wouldn't suffer. Ethan lowered his head. You didn't give me a choice. You decided alone what was best for me. She felt her eyes burn, but she wouldn't let the tears fall. Not anymore. Ethan finally looked at her again. You're right. She blinked, surprised. What? You're right. He took a deep breath. I was a coward. For a moment, Anna didn't know how to react. Ethan never admitted he was wrong. But there he was, and for the first time she saw genuine remorse in his eyes. Anna sighed, looking away. And Emily? Does she know? He nodded. She knows. She laughed again, cynically. So that's why you transferred all your assets to her, to ensure Emily stays comfortable after... She couldn't finish the sentence. She couldn't. Ethan took a deep breath. Yes. And then, everything made sense. The necklace, the provocative posts, the rush to formalize the relationship with Emily. Ethan was trying to build something before time ran out. But none of this justified what he did. Anna felt a lump in her throat. She had spent days hating that man, imagining ways to take revenge, to make him pay for each tear shed. And now, all she wanted was to get out of there. She grabbed her glass and drank the rest of the champagne. Then she looked at Ethan one last time. You made your choice, Ethan, and I made mine. He nodded slowly. I know. I hope it was worth it. And without waiting for a response, she walked away. Each step made her feel lighter. But the truth was, her heart would never be the same. She found Caleb Wilson on the other side of the hall. He noticed her expression and immediately frowned. What happened? Anna took a deep breath, trying to process everything. Then she looked at Caleb, the only one who had been by her side without asking for anything in return. Get me out of here! He didn't ask anything. He just took her hand and led her out of the event. And for the first time, Anna felt that she was finally leaving her past behind. The cold night wind blew against Anna Smith's face as she and Caleb Wilson left the event. But this time, it wasn't the cold that made her shiver. It was the weight of the truth. Ethan Garcia was sick. The revelation still echoed in her mind like thunder, leaving behind a trail of conflicting emotions. She had spent weeks hating him, wanting to see him suffer, wishing he would pay for what he did, and now she discovered he was already suffering. and alone. Her steps were slow, and Caleb, beside her, noticed her change in mood. "Anna, what happened in there?" She stopped, walking. She stood in silence for a few seconds before looking at him. How could she explain something she couldn't even process herself? "Ethan is dying." Caleb furrowed his brow. "What do you mean?" Anna took a deep breath and crossed her arms, as if trying to protect herself from the impact of her own words. "He has a genetic disease. Degenerative. Little by little he will lose movement, and the end is inevitable." Caleb was silent for a moment. His gaze remained fixed on hers, trying to understand what that meant for her. "Does this change anything for you?" The question made Anna look down at the ground. Change. She still felt the betrayal burning inside her. She still remembered the sleepless nights, the humiliations, the cruel way he left. But now she knew the reason, and no matter how much she hated to admit it, she couldn't feel more anger. She looked at Caleb again and replied without hesitation, "I don't hate him anymore." Caleb nodded slowly. "And what do you feel?" Anna sighed, staring at the dark sky. Relief, but not because of what happened to him. She tightened her arms around herself. Relief because, finally, I can move on. Caleb smiled to the side. "You've already moved on, Anna. You just haven't realized it yet." She looked at him for a moment, feeling an unexpected warmth in her chest. Maybe he was right. Caleb took her hand and intertwined it with his. "Let's get out of here. You deserve a night without thinking about the past." Anna smiled slightly, and without looking back, she walked with him. Months later, Anna looked at herself in the mirror and hardly recognized herself. Not because she looked different on the outside, but because something inside her had changed. The weight of the past was no longer on her shoulders. The pain still existed, but it no longer controlled her. She put on her lab coat, tied her hair up, and took her folder. Her work was now her priority, not as an escape, but because it was her passion, and it started to bear fruit. Her performance at the hospital caught attention, and the management offered her the head of a new department. It was a prestigious position, something that would require dedication, responsibility, and exactly what she needed. She accepted without hesitation. It was the beginning of a new era. As for Ethan, the disease progressed faster than he expected. The first symptoms began subtly. Small motor difficulties, a slight tremor in his hands. But soon they progressed, and he needed to leave work. At first, Emily Johnson was by his side. But as his condition worsened, she began to drift away. The romantic dinners dwindled, the passionate posts disappeared. And then, one day, she simply left. He woke up and found a note on the living room table. "I can't handle this, I'm sorry." And that was it. Ethan laughed, a bitter, tired laugh. He traded Anna Smith for Emily, and now he was alone. But he didn't stay alone for long, because when he received an unexpected call, the last person he imagined hearing on the other end of the line was Anna. "Hi, Ethan." Her voice sounded firm but without bitterness. "Anna, I know you didn't ask for my help, but I learned about an experimental treatment abroad. It's promising. If you want, I can pass you the information." Ethan was silent. Then he closed his eyes and sighed. He didn't deserve this. But somehow she was there, not because she still loved him, but because she was not like him. "Thank you, Anna." "Take care, Ethan." And that was the last time they spoke. As for Anna and Caleb, they continued to see each other, naturally, without haste. What started as a bond for revenge became something unexpected. Caleb made her laugh. He saw her beyond the pain. And one day, without realizing it, she no longer and thought about Ethan. She woke up, looked to the side, and saw Caleb sleeping beside her. Her chest no longer hurt. She smiled, closing her eyes, and then she realized she was happy, not because she found another man, but because she found herself again. And that was the best revenge of all.